The best way to do it, I think, is that you have to understand, you know, why. Why would anybody want to buy your product?
Right.
So you have to create what makes you different. What are your solutions that people are going to make a difference in the world? What we do is we're not a Me Too product. We're not just selling. I need to buy a pencil, and I have a pencil I want to sell you. It's that we're doing something completely different. So we have to go out and we have to create the want in the marketplace. I can put them with a headset on. They can visually, in a virtual world, walk through their space and they can see it. So
Yep.
they can truly understand and capture what it's going to look like. What
Right.
are they buying? So that's great. That's the beauty part of it. But then again, once it's in that virtual world where the computer knows everything it needs to know about it, it knows all the parts and pieces that it needs to build it. It knows what everything costs. So again, with a click of a button, they say, hey, that's great. What's it going to cost? I can hit a button and it's going to tell me this is what's going to cost.
Hi, David. Welcome to Manufacturing Insiders. Super excited to have you on today. Had a nice preliminary conversation with David, and he is the vice president of, so there's a couple different companies going on here, but there's DIRTT, and then there's Amp Interior Construction. Just could you just tell the audience a little bit about kind of what you're making and kind of your role in the company and things like that?
Sure. Company, our name is Amp Interior Construction. And what we are is we're the local partner for a larger manufacturer called DIRTT. And DIRTT is an acronym that stands for Doing It Right This Time. Um, Kind of the business that we're in is we're in the construction business. So DIRTT, what they do is they manufacture pre-manufactured solutions for the construction industry. So that is kind of a group of products. It's solid walls, glass walls, electrical components that go in the walls. It's raised floor. It's prefabricated data components, timber, manufactured timber components. So it's a breadth of products that are all put together. And really, what we're trying to do is it's an alternative form of construction, uh, where in typical conventional construction, a very large group of materials are dropped onto a job site, and then labor then basically manufactures it on site, I guess is the best way to understand it. We're trying to change that dynamic a bit. What if instead of doing that, because of issues that we have with the labor force, with low productivity, what if we could shift that where the materials stay in a factory, the labor comes from a factory, and then we deliver a product to a job site that's 90% finished, and then we more install it than we are quote unquote manufacturing on a job site. So that is the business that we are in. There are local partners all over the United States and Canada. Even there's one in Mexico now. So our territory, where we focus, is in Western New York. So the Buffalo, Western New York area.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's really the future of things, And after I was kind of thinking about what you were talking about last time we chatted, this kind of consolidation of workforce is a topic that's relevant to really every manufacturer out there. And I think that some of the problems that you guys are solving using technology are relevant to a lot of manufacturers as well. But just a little bit more on your product. So this can save, this could cut 20% off of the project timeline.
That's what we think. I mean, every job is different. There's when you're in the construction business, there's very lots and lots of variables that can affect things. But we think we can be in the ballpark of 20% off the construction schedule. And how we do that is that we're going to simplify the construction that gets done. Think of it in there's basically going to be two parts to this. So conventionally on the job site, you're going to build the shell, the box, everything, the outer walls. We're not a fire rated system, so any fire rated walls, the mechanicals that attach to the building. And while all that is happening off in a factory, the interiors or all the stuff that's going to go in the box is being built, and it basically gets delivered and then installed or plugged in or whatever term you want to use. So by doing that, there's efficiency. It's not just like we're not a lower price product on a product to product basis. But what we're doing is we're changing the process of how construction is going to get done. So the contractors that are building that empty box, there's labor savings, there's material savings that get captured on the project. Um, that's done through the process of it's just simplifying things. They have a wide open space to work. So let's take an example. Probably the three largest spaces where we can control or cut labor costs for other trades is in your ceiling contractor and your flooring contractor. Because just think about it. If you're laying down carpet tiles in a commercial setting, typically the way we do conventional construction, the stud walls or the frames, they're there. So now that carpet contractor has to cut around every single wall, which is a slower process, which is creating lots of scrap
Right.
carpets. And
Right.
where does all that go? Well, the scraps get tossed into a pile, typically in the middle of the job. It gets scooped up and put into a dumpster, and that dumpster goes off to a landfill.
Right.
So same thing with the ceiling tiles. I've read things. It takes probably around 20 minutes per office to hang a ceiling grid. If you're going to do it properly, you've got to make sure it's level and hook up your labor. Well, what if none of those walls were there, and you had a wide open space?
I've done that, but I've installed ceiling tiles and ceiling grid before. It's a huge pain in the ass. So I
It
can
is.
imagine having a big open area to do it. It'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, so you're maximizing your yield on your product. So we think there's a 20 to 25% savings on material scraps that you can reuse, and just the labor savings you can go. And then think of all the work that happens up in the ceiling too. The electrical work, the plumbing work, sprinklers, anything that's going on up there. Again, those contractors have a wide open space to work,
Yep.
and through that they can bring in different equipment instead of going up and down ladders and moving ladders all day. Because there's no walls. What if they can now have a man lift or a rolling lift that they can now roll? It will speed them up. So that's again, we think this is the future of how the construction process because it's just so efficient. And you read all the industry standards. Again, the construction business is typically right now still very unproductive. When you see what gets produced in an hour or per dollar, it's just we're not keeping track with other industries. We're actually declining where other industries are improving because we're not capturing technology into our business very well, and we're not changing our processes very well. So that's kind of what we're tapping into.
Right. So there is another side to that coin. So on the one hand, you're making things easier for the contractors, but then on the other hand, you're also getting pushback from some of the contractors, specifically unions and things of that nature, because of the fact that some of what you're doing is replacing some of what they're doing. Is that right?
No, I wouldn't say it's a word replacing. I think the pushback more comes from the unknown. It's a different way of doing things, and you're challenging the process of how the construction world works. We're asking them to do it, and it's more of an educational thing, I think, because once you really get a contractor on board, your general contractors, your carpenters, and you explain to them how they get it. They get it very clearly. It's like, yeah, this makes sense. This is a lot simpler. So the pushback is just in the education process. Is we're going to change your sequencing. Just again going back to my flooring conversation. What we're saying is we don't want to have the flooring down before the walls come in, which is kind of absurd when you think about it on the conventional side, because you would never do that. Because our product is pre-manufactured, is going to sit on the finished flooring,
Right.
where conventional construction, the finished flooring comes up to it. So again, it's just a sequencing change, it's a process change, and it's just a pricing change too. When you're pricing out your project, the spreadsheets that the estimators use aren't going to work. So just a lot of different things have to be done in a different way. And when we get the opportunity to kind of be more, this really works well in like a design build concept where you're getting all the contractors around the table and you can explain it and you can explain the sequencing, then the barriers do start to come down. And the pushback is not as hard. When everybody's off in their own little silos, all trying to put numbers together, they don't understand what we are. And that's where the pushback comes.
Right. Right. Wasn't there some thoughts around kind of the consolidation of I guess not involving as many trades in the, for example, electrical process
Mhm.
because all of that's kind of done before the wall is installed.
Yeah, so when you think about it, when the wall's going to come from the factory, just take a simple wall. Um, our system, it's an aluminum frame that has finished tiles that snap into it. So when I say that, we're changing the process, we're simplifying, to build a typical wall, you need a contractor's going to hang the studs. The electricians are going to come in, pull their wiring. You're going to have a drywaller that's going to come in and drywall it and tape it. Then you're going to have a painter that's going to come in to paint it. And then you're going to have a flooring contractor that's going to come in and put the base on the bottom. Well, our system captures all of that. So when it's coming from the factory, it's already painted. The tiles just have to be snapped on. There is no base that needs to go on, and the wall includes the electrical system. So you can see, the way that the construction world is broken down is broken into divisions. So I've just taken, 4 or 5 divisions there and put it into one manufactured product. So it's just, again, it's a little bit different on how to do it. And that sometimes causes problems when we're in the public sector and we have to put a bid out. We have to get 3 bids. And, how do you break off a manufactured system and break it into electrical, drywall, painting so you can get an even bid? That's where we think then, as far as divisions go, we think we're division 13 on that, where we're really specialty construction. It's a system onto its own. So it's just moving the pieces around is really all that it is.
Right. So on the public sector contracting, what's kind of been your process for, you mentioned redefining the specialty. Can you just talk a little bit more about, how you got involved in government contracting and kind of, maybe some tips that you might have for people that are doing that?
So as far as, first thing is you need to get yourself on a government contract, which is a challenge unto itself. Now, luckily, again, we're a partner, a local partner. So the manufacturer itself is really the one responsible to do
Right.
that. So our system, it's on GSA contract with the federal government. The GSA, they do like it. The work that we do locally with our government agencies, they really do support it because, quite honestly, it makes their life easier.
Right.
Once they can see, the product is on a GSA contract, from a purchasing standpoint, it kind of clears the weeds for them. And they
Right.
know that it's already been pre-bid, it's being pre-priced, it's all set, ready to go. Then they can just pick what they want. They don't have to go through this long, elaborate bidding process. They can just buy it on the contract. So
Right.
that is for federal government, that's great. As far as other contracts we're on the Premier contract, which is healthcare related. We're on the NPP contract, which is for public agencies, education, nonprofit. So there's lots of buying contracts, and really, again, what does it do? It simplifies things. It's taking our product as a whole package. It's already a pre-negotiated pricing, so the buying agencies from the government or from the public agencies know that their responsibility is covered. It's been pre-negotiated. They don't have to go through the process of it, which again speeds it up. We're gonna speed up that whole process of, oh, I want to buy this to we bought it. We don't have to go through this long, elaborate bidding process and then try to evaluate the bid. The other problem with when you're doing the bidding process is that somebody has to then who has enough competency in what they're buying to try to pull the bids apart. Make sure, are we comparing apples to apples? Are they equal? Are we really getting what we're asking for? It gets very complicated. So for the public agency, it's just, this is what I want. I want that. And then here's the price, and they know it's pre-negotiated, and they can just start to move forward. So again, it's just a different way of doing things, but it simplifies the process.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So the manufacturer themselves kind of went through all the upfront work of,
Mhm.
having those pre-negotiated contracts, pricing, things like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Luckily, we didn't have to do that.
Right, right. Yeah, and man, I'd love to have a little deeper conversation into that too, because I feel like that would be helpful for other manufacturers. But let's jump back to, the education process involved in bringing a new product to market, really disrupting an industry. What's your belief about that? What do you believe is the best way to do that?
The best way to do it, I think, is that you have to understand, you know, why. Why would anybody want to buy your product?
Right,
So you have to create what makes you different. What are your solutions that people are going to make a difference in the world? What we do is we're not a Me Too product. We're not just selling, I need to buy a pencil and I have a pencil I want to sell you. We're doing something completely different. So we have to go out and we have to create the want in the marketplace. We have to start talking to what are our advantages to, you and I had talked about this earlier. It's a multi-level sale that we're doing. So I'm selling to three different entities at the same time because all three have, um, I don't know what the right word is, but they have an interest in what's going on. So I call it the triangle. So we've got the owner, and the advantages of what our solution can bring to the owner are going to be different than the other two elements of the triangle. So the owner, they're talking about, they're interested in the reduction in the schedule,
Right.
especially if it's a revenue producing facility like a hospital. 3 weeks could be millions of dollars for them if they can get that hospital open quicker.
Right.
There's a tax depreciation to the owner. Again, we are considered, because our core of our product is demountable, which means it's not physically hard attached to the building. So you have to look at it as a piece of equipment, like a phone or a copier or furniture. So again, there's a faster depreciation on that. So owners care about that.
Right.
There's leasing options that they can do because again, it's a system, so the owners care about that. So those, you're trying to find your key points that really are going to be advantageous to the owner. And actually then, when you look at our product too, I always say it's pretty sexy. It's good looking stuff. So the owner cares about that too.
Right.
And then when you move to the other two elements are that you have also then designers. So the designers, they have their interests. So we've got to sell to them too. We're giving you the ability to still customize, while we are a pre-manufactured solution. I'm not going to hand you a price book and say, here, pick what you want. The designers still have the freedom to design however they want, and it's our responsibility then to manufacture it. And there's a process how we do that with our software. But we can do complete customization for whatever the designers want. And then it's our responsibility too to explain everything we had talked about earlier about to the design community that this is a different way of doing it, and there's efficiencies that you can sell to your clients. And I think we try to market it that you now can present to your clients, here's an alternative method to give yourself possibly an advantage against your competitors that are building traditionally if you're trying to come at it with something different. And the last thing then, the last piece of the triangle is the contractors, the general contractors. Again, we need to work with them. We have to explain to them the advantages to them. We're going to take the pressure off of your workforce because, as we all know, the biggest problem we have in the construction business is right now is labor. And the pressures on the contractors to find labor and qualified labor. Well, we can help relieve some of those pressures. Where some people will look at us, oh, you're taking work away from us. And the answer is, well, no, not really. We still need you. We still want you. Instead of just doing it the way you used to do, just put our stuff in. There's less of it to do. It's simpler to do. So we're taking the pressure off of your workforce because you probably don't have the manpower to do what you need anyways to keep this project on schedule. So there's advantages to doing that. There's typically an argument inside of that conversation that happens, but there are advantages. So my experience, again, it's like I said, it's a 3-point sale all at the same time. I need two of the three to be on board with the idea of it to be successful. If I only can get one, whether it be the designer, the contractor, or the owner, typically it's not successful. I think the other two will tend to talk them out of it.
Right. So I like this model. I mean, I think models are a great way to optimize any process. And in this construction triangle that you referred to, how'd you come up with that?
Just my own personal brilliance.
Yeah.
No, it's trial and error because when we first brought our product to the marketplace, we weren't quite sure, like, who do we approach, who do we attack, in the first thought is, oh, we'll just go to the architects because they're the ones that specify products onto a project. But then we realized, well, while the architects can do that, they will specify your product. They're not going to sell your product. You have to sell your own product. So like, who are we selling to? Well, we're really selling to the owners, right? So I've got to go to the owner and explain to them, here's the advantages like I talked about earlier. And then once the owner's saying, then we have to, then our pushback came from the contractors. Not maybe pushback isn't the right word, but we weren't having success because again, the contractors didn't understand what we were doing. They didn't understand the process, and we could never get the dollars to work out correctly.
Right.
The one thing about the prefabricated or demountable business that you hear, everybody says, oh yeah, I love that stuff. It's really cool, but super expensive. And that price problem comes in not so much of just the material cost, it's that the process you're doubling dollars all the way on that spreadsheet when the estimators are doing it. If you don't explain, you've got to resequence this, you've got to change your schedule, you've got to pull electrical pieces out of the electrical number, is because it's now over here. So if you don't understand that, it's going to come in high because you're just doubling up numbers across the whole project.
Right.
So it really like a trial and error of, we'd approach one, we try to understand why aren't we making any, why are we having success? What are the roadblocks we're having? Well, it's because we're not talking to the owners. The owners don't understand. So now we got to go to the owners again. Then we started going, well, the contract, every job dies once the estimators from the GCs show up. And they're like, okay, well, we need to talk to them. So that's kind of how we came up with this 3-point sale. All three need to be explained. This is going to be we're playing a different game. Like we analogy I made, we're not playing chess here. We're playing checkers. While it may look the same, it's both on a checkered board, but two different games. And that's the same thing what we're doing. Yes, we're construction, and with the construction site's going to look the same, but we're going to doing things different. Right. So you just need to understand it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if this particular triangle model would have specific application really in bringing any new product to market. And it may not always be a triangle. Sometimes it might be a 2-point. Sometimes it might be a square. Sometimes it might be a hexagon. Who knows? Yeah. But I think really the key point is understanding who are the stakeholders in the project, in what the product that you're bringing to them, and ensuring that you're addressing each one of their issues adequately.
Absolutely. You got to create the want. Why do I want to buy it?
Right.
That's the main question.
So the job of addressing each one of these points of the triangle is that in your hands in this, as a salesperson, or do you have tools that you put together to communicate the value proposition to each one of these stakeholders?
I think the answer to that is both. Well, yes, our manufacturer does give us a lot of different tools, spreadsheets, explanation of how to explain the process. But again, it's still up to us at a local level. I'm just talking here, because we are on a local level. What I'm doing is that you still have to figure out your own story. Because even though, while the product is what it is, and the answers, every market is going to be different. So what the market here in Buffalo, New York, people care about may be completely different than what people in Los Angeles care about. Right. It's a different market, a different price point, different labor costs, all kinds of different stuff. Government regulations as far as permitting, it's all different. So you still need to take the bigger idea that here's the 40,000 foot level. Here's why you want to buy it, but then you then have to on a local level, you got to pare it down and really then go on the local pressure points of how can I make a difference here? How can I speed things up? Us here locally, the main success that we have is speed. Because our product is made in the manufacturing setting inside of a factory, again, our lead time is about 3 weeks. So we can do complete custom construction of walls, casework, electrical systems, and still have it in the parking lot ready to go in the building in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
So that is a huge advantage to the owners. They really do like that.
Right.
The other, again, local pressure point that that I think we satisfy, where our labor rates are fairly lower than the rest of the country. When you get into some of the larger cities, labor rates are very, very high, and Buffalo is not like that. So our labor costs, I think is reasonable compared to other places. So that's not a huge factor. It's the finding the labor to do the work, again, to keep that schedule, keep the project on schedule, is where we can really impact that more than just saving on a labor cost.
On the subject of labor, so you guys basically drop off these walls, and then the GC installs them, or you have a team that comes in and does that?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
It depends on the project. It depends on a whole bunch of different factors. Again, our main goal is we're trying to sell the solution, because we think it is the future of construction. We are trying to locally partner with other contractors now to install the product. We have a small team locally here that work under us for AMP, about I think 4 to 5 laborers, and we call them techs, is the term that we use. So yes, we can handle a job that's, 200 linear feet of walls or less. It's not a problem. And I can understand a lot of the larger contractors aren't really, to mobilize and just pull a team together to, a couple days worth of work. It's kind of not worth it. However, again, if the solution that we think that we're selling, if we truly believe in it, we think all projects should be built this way, which
Right.
means we're going to need a lot of partners to get on board. And it's just an add-on to their business. They're already installing drywall and studs. Well, this project's going to be different. You can install what we do. So that's where we're really starting to head out. And there are partners that we partner with when we have a very large project, large scale project, large contractors that will come in. And we're talking, if you have 1,000 linear feet or 2,000 linear feet, or we're doing, an emergency room, we're in a hospital where we're going to be out there for 6 weeks installing. That's outside the scope of what my team can do. So yes, we do need to then partner with larger contractors to do that. So the answer is, we can install it, but also a general contractor or a union drywall contractor can put it in. It's just they're doing the same thing. It's just different stuff going in.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of different places that you need to. I mean, so you've got the general contractors. If you get a lot of general contractors using the product, they're going to be great advocates for it. The
Mm-hmm.
architects could, so really everybody in your triangle, at least the architects and the GCs. I mean, but then there's also trade associations. I'm sure trade associations would be a great way to promote this kind of stuff. If you if you had $1 million in your marketing budget right now, and you had to spend it in a month, what would you do to get this education out there to get it in front of more people?
Oh, that's a big question. um, Boy, I don't think I would change much. I don't think it'd be much different than what I'm doing now. I think what I would probably do is just get more people on the ground to tell the story more. Is our biggest hurdle. Is that not enough people? Our resources are so limited that we can't tell the story enough to get it out there.
Yep.
So I think that would be one, because we're doing it again. This is the advantage of being a small market. The Buffalo market itself, I mean, if you take it as a whole region, we maybe have 1 million people. So the people I need to talk to, there's not a ton. It's not like in New York City where, you know, there are millions and millions of people that you need to talk about the solution. So that's an advantage that we have in a small market that, we have, top of my head, I'm going to guess 12 architectural firms here in town. From a GC standpoint, we've probably got 10 to 12, so, within a year, we can hit them all, and keep the relationships going. Um, but it's just to the owners is really where we could get more traction with the owners. So one of the things we do from a sales standpoint or marketing standpoint, we're very active in different organizations, trade organizations, depending on the market we're trying to focus on. If it's healthcare, we're trying to target and get active in ASHI, which is a healthcare organization, because again, the people we need to talk to, those are the rooms that they're in, so we need to be networking inside of those rooms.
Right.
Same thing with commercial real estate. There's a couple different organizations that we're very involved in. So again, it's about getting our word out and our story out and talking to people out there. Hey, there's a different way that you can do things. There's advantages to do it. Maybe you should take a look.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this before. I'm a big proponent of video for storytelling, which, even before that, I think the story itself is something that people don't put enough effort into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Understanding the elements of a good story, understanding, what's going to resonate with your target market. And, a lot of us, in engineering and technical fields, we really like to focus on the facts and the figures. I mean, for me personally, if you come to me and say, this is going to save 20% of your project costs, it's going to work, it's going to speed up the timeline by X number. That's all I need. I don't need to feel good, get a warm fuzzy, but that's not most people. Storytelling is incredibly important. So tell me about, when you go into, an architect, or you talk to a GC, or you talk to an owner, um, do you kind of have these specific stories, these examples that you give them, that, provide a little bit of emotion, provide a little bit of, warm fuzzy?
Oh, absolutely. again, going to my triangle again, though, you have three different entities that care about three different things.
Right.
So the owner, we're showing them pictures. Again, we're selling sexy. We
Yep.
have to get their interest. It's got to look really good. Again,
Yep.
when people hear pre-manufactured, they're thinking, well, I don't want like a mobile home. That's not the finishes, the fit and finish that I'm looking for. I want a beautiful office design. So that's how we get their attention. Everything else we talk to them later about, tax advantages. Those are just add-ons. We really want to create the want with them. Like, oh, boy, I got to have that. One of the ways we do that is we have a beautiful showroom here that my goal is to try to get everybody here. If I can get them here, I call it
Yep.
my home field advantage. They walk out going, wow, I just saw something I'd never seen before. And
Yep.
that's the impact you're trying to make. And then everything else follows that. But that creates the one. It's the same thing with the architects. Again, what they want is they don't want to be pushed aside by some pre-manufactured solution. They are the designers that the client has hired to do it, and they should be allowed to do that. So again, we show them the wow, saying, hey, look, we can create it. If you can imagine it, we can create it. And it comes take a look at our showroom again and see. So we're trying to create the wow moment with them too. The contractors, however, it's a different conversation. They are typically more concerned about schedule and how much does that cost? How much the square foot cost is that? So their conversation, not that it's a bad conversation, it's just, their focus is on building it. And while they want to build beautiful things also, their main focus is building it. So those, yes, we do bring in pretty pictures with that, but those conversations have really circled more around, the estimating piece of it, how much a square foot, how many linear foot, what's the material made of. When you say you're going to cut the schedule, how are you going to do that? So you explain to me the sequencing. So if that answers your question, it's really the first two. It's just you got to create, got to have they got to have it.
Yep.
They got to want it. And we've been so successful at that. Just if people come to our showroom, and just walk through and they look, and it's a done deal.
Mhm.
Then we just need to then make the numbers work, which is a lot easier to sell than trying to sell the numbers. Oh yeah, by the way, here's what's going to cost, and oh, we can also do pretty. We can make it look really cool. Do it the other way. We can do something that's really cool, and here's what it's going to cost. It's a lot easier to go that way.
Yep. Yeah, you did somewhat answer my question. I was actually in that's a great answer. I mean, I think you illustrated a great point that you do need to have those separate stories for each one of the stakeholders in the triangle. Um, I was actually going a little bit further into it, and that's that. So with a good story, and I actually I can't take credit for this information. It's a book I've talked about quite a bit. It's called Stories That Stick, and this book was excellent. I loved it. But what Kendra did in this book was break down the specific elements that need to go into a story to make it resonate with an audience. And so, just for example, the first point is identifiable characters. So when you start off a story, you're saying, hey, so there's this guy, Tom, that I was working with. You give him very specific characteristic. He was he's an older guy. He was very, very much into the technical details, whatever. So you got your identifiable character. And then you have some authentic emotion. So Tom was really frustrated about, the fact that his project, was going to be pushed out for a year and whatever. And then you get into a moment. So that's when he realized X, Y, or Z, and he made a decision. So anyway, she goes through these specific elements that go into this story. And then you kind of look at people that are good storytellers, and you're like, man, they do that naturally. It's exactly what they're doing. But so what I was asking was, do you have like those specific stories about a person, about somebody that you solved the problems for?
Oh yeah, we leverage our past projects a lot to try to explain. Here's a company that's in a like business you are, and I take the financial business or the banking business. We have a large impact in that, and when we're talking about the full solution or the full concept, we did a project for a credit union, and we leverage that constantly. And what we're trying to do is make the personal relationship.
Yep.
You probably have the same issues and problems that this person had, and here's how we solved them.
Right.
Here's how, you know, right now in our business, we're in the unknown. Again, we're still coming out of this COVID conversation, and companies are in this area where their leases are starting to come due, and they don't know what to do. Should we downsize? Should we keep the same square footages that we had pre-COVID? But we're a hybrid workforce, so they're not sure what to do. So part of that story is, hey, here's a company that had the same problem that you had. They didn't know what to do either. They were building a brand new building. They weren't sure how this building was going to change and react over the next 10 years. So why they looked at our solution is that because it has a flexibility to it. They can, they can take their walls down and move them if they
Right.
want. So that's, one piece. The next piece was it's clean construction, right? We can buy this in pieces. I don't need to build out the whole entire floor today and then try to make it work for the next 10 to 20 years. I can buy 3 or 4 offices today. 2 years from now, I can buy 2 more and plug them in. And so it allows a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom. So telling that story resonates. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I've got that same problem. We don't know what to do.
Right.
So this allows, the point of it is this allows the decision maker a way out. If
Yep.
that 2 years down the road, the business is going to be changing, if this hybrid, what if hybrid doesn't stick? What if 2 or 3 years from now and nobody's working at home anymore? Now they all have to all come back to the office. Well, now what do we do?
Right.
We built a space for the hybrid world, but we're not in the hybrid world. So you want to be able to give yourself some flexibility. So telling the stories like that yes, there are other people just like you out there with the same problems. And here's how we help solve them. That's a huge portion of what we do. And then follow it up with the photographs, and then they want to see, we show them the breakdown of the pricing of how we did it, give them an overview of how many square feet it was. So again, they're making that connection that yes, we're about the same size. Yes, we're in the same industry. So yeah, we do it all the time.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I think a lot of companies miss how important that story aspect of things is. Um, so with the with the storytelling, and being a digital marketing guy, I have to talk about this. What are you doing from a digital standpoint to promote your offering, to tell your story?
So I'll answer that 2 ways. One, again, as a local partner, I'll be honest, we're probably not at a level we should be when it comes to digital marketing. One of the things we do have, we just updated our website to get it, again, more interactive and more relevant to what we do.
Yep.
Again, when people are coming to our website, again, we talked about this, I'm selling a product that nobody wants to buy. Nobody knows that they need it. So they're not really going to find me on my website. If they're coming to my website, we probably have an interaction. I've gotten to you, and you want to learn more about it.
Right.
So that's where our website. So that's kind of how we're focusing our website. One of the biggest thing that we're starting to do right now is we're really trying to capture more of LinkedIn with our LinkedIn page, with my personal LinkedIn. We're doing a marketing campaign right now where we're trying to do some blasts through LinkedIn to try to connect again to the C-suite type people that want to hear our story.
Yep.
This is the first time we're doing that, and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about it. Not sure if it's going to pay the results that we want, but again, I'm trying to be forward thinking and take a chance and take a risk. It's not cheap to do it, but we're going to see what the results are, see if it makes an impact.
Yeah, and certainly, if you can make connections with people that could, be in your target market, that's going to give you the opportunity to then have little short videos that you post on your LinkedIn. They're going to see those and start to kind of become educated on your product over time.
Yeah, and slowly over time, we can hit our value propositions without being obnoxious about it.
Right.
Right. Because you start to be obnoxious, it just becomes noise and people will tune you out. So it's a slow process, but we want to stay in front of people. So we think that's a good way to do that. So right now we're trying to cast a bigger net out there, and then once we get the net cast, then we can slowly start to. And again, our sales process is a very long time. Even if somebody is interested, if we start talking today about my solution, we're not going to be putting it in for probably 2 years.
Yep.
So it takes a while.
Right.
But then, so that's me on a local level. And then what I had talked about earlier too, again, just trying to get out there and talking to as many people as we can about us and our solution. We have the advantage is that we are part of a larger company that has been in the market for 140 years. With the they're in the commercial furnishing business. So we get a lot of opportunities to have conversation with clients because they come to our offices that are looking to buy furniture, something again they know they want to buy. I need to buy a chair, I need to buy a desk, I need to buy a cubicle, and then they see our solution. Hey, what's that?
Yep.
That opens up the door for us. So that's a huge advantage. But then, like I said, it's a two-part conversation. On a larger scale, then the manufacturer that we represent, they're also then doing their um, strategy. So they're much heavier. They have much more investment in websites, in trying to impact the marketplace, trying to reach out to larger architects um, and designers on a national level or a global level that we just can't do because we don't have the resources, or it just wouldn't make sense either. We try to stay in our local areas where we're trying to impact. They're trying to impact all of North America.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I would assume that a lot of even companies that are in a distribution sort of model where you have the manufacturer, you're a local distributor, something to that effect. There's a lot of, I guess, uncertainty as to what you should let that larger organization do and what you should do on your own. To me, it sounds like your showroom is something that needs more visibility. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're never going to get 100% of your potential target market into your showroom. So what can you do to get that showroom to them?
Yeah. One of the things we've done in the past that we need to bring back is put our entire showroom on Matterport or some sort of software like that. So somebody doesn't need to come to our office to actually see it. They can walk themselves through it. I think that would be a next step for us, and that would be a good application. Um, I don't know if, say, like a commercial would be a good idea for us, again, because our market that we're targeting is commercial construction, not residential. So I
Right.
think it would be confusing to certain people, or it wouldn't be either confusing or it wouldn't be applicable. So it has to be truly, truly targeted.
Right.
Um, we have pretty clever ways, though, of getting people into our showroom that have nothing to do with, a quote unquote sales idea or sales process, whether it be, we host a ton of nonprofits here. The way that our space is set up, we have large, we're a furniture company at heart, right? So we've got lots of desks, lots of conference rooms, lots of chairs. So it's a perfect setting to have all kinds of groups come in
Okay.
and
Yeah.
do meetings. Again, it's traffic, getting the flow. We host a lot of AIA events for architects. Any event that we can host here just to get a body inside of here, then they see it. So we're very clever on getting people to our showroom. But I think if we could get some sort of digital concept, that would be great. If we could get I don't know how to do it, but it's more of like an augmented tour of or a virtual reality tour of
Right.
our showroom would be really cool.
Because you guys are using that type of technology to, kind of give a preview and help design the space, correct?
Correct. So the manufacturer, DIRTT, they have a software that generates. Everybody asks, well, how can you do this? How can you create custom solutions in 3 weeks? And it's impossible how you do it. Well, the secret to it is there's a software that we use, and it's a software called ICE that DIRTT has developed. And what ICE is, it's let's say it's a BIM software um, that's used in the construction business, but it's on steroids. So it takes it to the next level. So when we draw a line in the software, it's creating that wall or whatever we're drawing in a virtual world. So now once it's in the virtual world, we can do a whole bunch of things to it. One being we can go look at it. So we have on our desktop, I can click a button and I can visually see it in the 3D. I can walk around it. I can zoom in and out of it. So we can do that for the entire space. So now from a design standpoint, the the client or whoever's looking at the space, I can put them with a headset on. They can visually, in a virtual world, walk through their space and they can see it.
Yep.
So they can truly understand and capture what it's going to look like.
Right.
What are they buying? So that's great. That's the beauty part of it. But then again, once it's in that virtual world where the computer knows everything it needs to know about it, it knows all the parts and pieces that it needs to build it. It knows what everything costs. So again, with the click of a button, they say, hey, that's great. What's it going to cost? I can hit a button and it's going to tell me this is what's going to cost. It's going to cost, $1 million to do this. So it's instantaneous pricing. So what if I change this? What if I, take these out here or change this to glass? What does that do? Well, make a few changes in the computer. Here's what it's going to cost. So again, it's a interactive way to, again, work through the design process and pricing process. And then on the back side of that, say, okay, it's great. We want to go ahead and order it. Well, that file gets sent right to the manufacturer. It goes right onto their factory floor. So now it's starting to talk. That same software is now talking to the CNC machines and the robotic machines and the laser cutters and things like that. So it knows what to make. So again, that's how we're trying to take the humans out of it. So there's no human error or the slowness of the human process where we have to input information into a computer to get it done. Why can't, if I draw a line, it should be able to be continuous all through the process.
Right.
So that's how we were able to pull that off. But again, going to that digital platform, I think, from a design standpoint, that's the future that's coming. How we're going to design things. We're going to be in a virtual world or an augmented reality world where you're going to go to your architect's office or your designer's office and you're going to put a headset on and you're going to start to see what they're creating. That's just where it's already starting to come into our industry. I'm not going to say it's at its maturity yet. It's probably in its infancy, but it's coming. It just makes too much sense. It's too easy. It's too simple. It's too productive to ignore it.
Right. Yeah, in the augmented reality, it has so many applications. Obviously, the one that you just talked about is an important one, but even once you get to the shop floor, beyond just communicating to the robotics, what needs to be done, this type of technology could be used to train new employees, to ensure that there's, no mistakes in the manufacturing process. What do you know about that?
Well, even I don't know about the manufacturing side, but I can tell you on the construction side. Again, the technology exists and it is out there. But imagine you have your contractors that are all walking around the job site, and attached to their hard hats, there's a halo lens. That's a product that Microsoft makes, but there's a clear lens, and inside that they can now see the entire project in a virtual world, looking right at them. They can start to see where pipes are going to be, where electrical lines are going to be. Yep. And they can understand, even on a smaller scale, where I'm supposed to drill a hole here for something.
Right.
Well, they can look down and virtually it'll say drill right here. So again, what are you doing by doing that? You're eliminating mistakes. You're identifying mistakes a lot quicker and a lot, things aren't lining up where they're supposed to line up. Well, the software is able to tell you, hey, we have a warning here. This is not where it's supposed to be. Yep. It's a lot easier to fix that then than when it's all finished up in drywall and you realize, hey, the pipes don't match up. Now they're tearing things apart. So, and then you're also speeding things up. Again, that labor force that we're talking about, we don't have enough skilled labor out there. Well, let's take some of the skill out of it. Can we simplify through technology the work that has to be done, make it simpler? So you don't need to be a 30-year craftsman to do some of this work. So, I think that's exciting to me. Another concept that, imagine again, you have your helmet, but there's a GoPro camera attached to it. So every person on the job site has a GoPro. And what's happening is that camera is capturing everything it sees is capturing. Right. And it all gets loaded back into a computer. And then the computer will take that and it'll mush it all together. And it'll reference it back to the BIM model that was created by your design team. And it'll start to track it. Say, again, same thing. It can tell, are things in the wrong place? When the contractor says, hey, I'm 50% complete, well, the computer's going to say, well, no, actually, you're not. Right. You're only 30% complete.
Right.
So it starts, and why is that important? It's not that, anybody's contractor's not trying to get over on anybody. But again, it helps on the construction management side to say, hey, we're on schedule, or no, we're not on schedule. Right. And if we're not on schedule, now we can react to it. One of the issues we have in construction is that, we react sometimes too late. Right. But if that 20% gap is known way early, well, the project managers and the superintendents can do things to shrink that and get it back on the schedule. So that's why those are critically important. But again, the involvement of technology, and I'm not an expert in it, but the involvement of the technology is where our industry needs to go. So those are some exciting things that get me. I don't, how long is it going to take to get out practical application in the world? I don't know. I do know it exists. It's out there. I haven't seen it personally on a lot. I've seen it once or twice here in my market. But again, because we're a small market, we tend to be about 10 years behind everybody. But it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even something as simple as, I used to work in construction, and you're going to install a kitchen. So you're like, all right, I need the 2.5-inch screws. I need, some stains, my touch up kits. I need, my drill bits. I need my coreless drills and things of that nature. So you're in your head, you're kind of putting together this list of things that you need to take to the job site. And then inevitably you're going to miss something. You didn't
Sure.
bring enough caulking or whatever. But with technology like this, you have the model built, you have the instructions. It says, here's the exact amount of everything that you're going to need for this job. And the
Yep.
first thing you're going to do when you get to the job is step one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that a project manager can load into a computer the task that you need to do for that day, and the computer can then relay to you, here's what you're going to need to make sure you have with you today before you get
Right.
out of the truck, and you've got everything on you. Think of just the savings of productivity. Like you said, you forgot your caulk. Now, maybe just a simple, hey, I got to walk down to the van to get the caulk and bring it back. What if you don't have caulk? Now you're leaving the job site.
Right.
See, that's the lack of productivity that, bringing the technology can help. But
Yep.
let's say you do have everything. So again, going back to our augmented conversation. Well, when you start to put that 2-inch screw into the wall, is there a water line pipe where you're putting the screw? Do you know that? Do you not
Right.
know that? You're going to hit it, make a big mess.
Yep.
Well, again, with that augmented reality, you can see, well, that's where the piping is. I'm clear. I'm good to go. Or where's the blocking? No, it should be right here. Um, Again, it helps save those mistakes. That
Yep.
see that all the time. So people like to put screws through pipes.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I just watched a video of electronic car manufacturer, and the worker had this pretty complex assembly sitting in front of him, and it was actually a 59-step process. Like, first thing, he put this part on top of this, and he's putting the bolts into it. The augmented reality is highlighting the items that he's doing next. So it's saying, put this bolt in, put this bolt in. Okay, he torques it down. It says torque to whatever amount. And so it's quality control, it's employee training. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Because when I was watching this video, I thought to myself, if you were training somebody to do that, it would take you a month.
Yeah,
And on top of that, even after you train them for a month, they're still going to make mistakes here and there, because they're going to be like, oh, which bolt went? Yeah, this one's next. So it takes all of the human error out of the process, which I just thought was phenomenal. I could
yeah,
see this being used in so many applications.
yeah. I mean, and again, and that's where our industry needs to go. We've got to start leveraging this technology. I think we didn't really discuss it, but I also then think AI is going to be a new element that's going to come into maybe not so much in the construction end, but on the design end. Um, can computers start to do some of this work that we're doing manually right now? I mean,
Right.
as far as I know, on the interior design piece that we do, um, there is, I've seen it again, one of our manufacturers on the furniture side, you input into a computer a bunch of parameters of what you're looking for. I'm trying to create this type of space, a call center space. I need to produce, $20 a square foot, dollars per square foot per hour, whatever it's going to be. You put all the parameters in, and the computer's going to spit out 100 different layouts of how the floor should be laid out to
Right.
create whatever input you put into it. Now, on a manual side, the way that we do it today, I mean, it'll take 2 to 3 days to get 5 of them done. So just instantaneously, again, the application of bringing this technology in is just going to speed us up. So I think it's the same thing that impacted us when before computers came into our industry. Again, we were drawing everything by hand. So when a customer or client would want to make a change, guess what? You'd have to redraw it or try to erase things. Just a slow, tedious process.
Right.
Where AutoCAD came in and that sped everything up, and it really saw this explosion in our industry. I think starting to bring some of this technology of AI is going to again be another explosion for our industry. If you're a developer, maybe you can do the same thing. Um, you put into some sort of AI tech, build me a building that produces, whatever dollar amounts per square foot for medical, what gets pumped out. I don't know, but it's going to be something cool. But then, how does that fit in? Is like, there's still health safety issues. You can't just build a building based on what a computer pumped out. What doesn't work. You still need your designers, you need your architects, you need your engineers to somehow. But we haven't gotten to that point, I think, to where those engagements are happening. But it will. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I agree. What would be your advice for, a manufacturer that finds this topic fascinating and they want to kind of figure out how they can integrate it into, maybe they're just, I've got customers that, build metal boxes that are used for different applications. What would somebody do to take the next step if they wanted to kind of get involved in this and see how it could, facilitate their manufacturing process?
I mean, to double back where we started, I think step number one is you have to ask yourself the question of why does anybody want to buy this? You have to answer that question.
Right.
Even, and you gotta ask yourself the question if you're talking to a, 5-year-old. Why does a 5-year-old want to buy my metal box? What's exciting about that? What advantages do we bring? And once you start to answer that, then that will really start to lay the road for you of telling your story, to create your story.
Right.
You want to buy it because of this, because of that. Here's what we can do. Here's how we can make your life better. You got to get that conversation on that personal level as quickly as you can. We're going to make your life better. We're going to solve this problem for you. And once you start to do that, then everything else kind of trails from there. But the question, why do I want to buy it? Explain to me why I want to buy it.
Yep. And what about the augmented reality side of things? If somebody wanted to incorporate more of this technology into their operations, what would be the next step in that?
I think, again, like I said, I'm not an expert in that end of it. I just touched the tip of the iceberg. But I think step number one is to be open-minded enough to learn more about it.
Right.
I'll be honest, I'm not even at the level where I say, but to ignore it, it's your own peril. I think the first step in any process is you've got to accept it. You've got to understand this is probably going to be the future. I need to get on board with it now. And then once I understand it and learn, how can I apply it to my business? How can it impact my business? And then when you find those areas, yes, I think it can save this or that. Then who's out there doing it? How can I start to integrate this platform into my business? So you have to be proactive. You have to accept it. You just can't ignore it. I think, my biggest fear is, I just don't want to become a dinosaur in 10 years.
Right.
And, I've heard it said about the AI process, again, I don't know a ton about it, but, the AI is not going to replace me or my business, but the people that know how to use AI will.
Right.
So I've got to make sure that I'm staying on top of it, and it's my personal responsibility to accept it and learn more about it.
Yep. That's a great perspective. And I mean, I think it is the important perspective, whether you're talking about AI, whether you're talking about digital marketing, augmented reality, any of these technologies, they're here. They're here to stay. They're only going to get more, powerful over time. And like you said, just being open-minded and spending a little bit of time doing some research. How are other people using this? Do I have competitors that are using it?
Yeah.
What's going on with it? But yeah, I think a lot of people are just like, it's something I don't want to think about. We're doing fine. It's all good. But that's the wrong perspective.
I think so. Yeah. And you're going to get left in the dust if you do that. And it may be, by the time you finally get on board, it may be too late.
Right.
And the same thing, look back at the last, 30, 40 years. There was resistance when the computers came into the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want one of those gadgets on my desk.
Right.
We don't need that. And we're doing it this way for 50 years. Well, guess what? Those people are probably all out of business by now, or
Right.
they finally given in and transition. Hey, we need a computer to start running because it's just too efficient. So it's the same thing. I think these are just new mediums that are coming, and we need to get on board with it.
I agree. Well, David, thank you very much for joining me today. I think this is a very interesting, stimulating conversation. So many great topics that, just branch into all the main issues that manufacturers are having today. Workforce issues, productivity issues, profitability, sales. It's all kind of wrapped into some of the things that we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. I mean, I don't have all the answers, that's for sure. But, we keep trying every day.
But you have some of them. So
yeah,
there's a lot of valuable insight. All right. Thank you, David.
All right. Thanks for having me.